Hi everyone, this is the third lesson on making classroom materials, and in this lesson I'm just going to focus on piecewise functions, specifically how to put them into LibreOffice and how to graph them and make graphs that you can use. So it would be helpful, very helpful, if you have watched the first two videos before going on to this one, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over the basics of things. So basically, this is what I'm going to try to do. I've constructed this previously. So you can see I have a piecewise function here, and I've graphed it. So these are both from different programs. I've done this first one here in LibreOffice, and I used GeoGebra to create the graph. Now, creating these things can be a little tedious, but it depends how much time you want to spend drawing them, because if you put them on your own tests, it's likely you're also going to spend quite a bit of time hand drawing these things. So let's just look at how I made this piecewise function in LibreOffice. Now if I double click on it, it'll open it up, and you can see there's a whole mess of stuff in here. Some of it should look familiar if you've watched the first video. Y equals is just giving me the y equals. Left L brace. So the left is telling it that I want an L brace, a curly bracket that is going to be expanded. And then I used a matrix command. So I'll talk about that in a second. But this is all the matrix command would have highlighted. And then at the end here, I've got right none. So let me just explain. You notice how there's no curly bracket on the right side. And the reason for that is that I put this right none in. If I hadn't included that, so you can see I removed the right, and now I've got this question mark, and it doesn't, nothing's formatted correctly. So LibreOffice is always looking to close out brackets. So by saying right none, it knows that there's not going to be a companion to this left L brace. Now, as far as this matrix command, let me explain what this does. Matrix is just telling it we're going to be putting something in this format, and the matrix format is simply you have an entry, and then if you want to continue putting entries in a particular row, you use a single pound sign. So I now have one entry and then a space, so you can see the space up here, and then another entry. Now if you wanted to tell it that you want a new row, you use 2 pound signs. So all I've done is said, here's the first row, 2 pound signs, okay, here's the second row. And then I've used some spaces to line everything up. Otherwise, if I get rid of these spaces, you can see how everything is sort of pushed together up here, and that doesn't look very nice. So using a double quote and then putting some spaces in it, I'm able to sort of line everything up. Right, so that's close enough for me. Now, if I was going to do that again, let me go down here and make a new one. So just to remind you how this all works, I'm using the insert object formula, and I'm going to say y equals, and again left L brace, that'll give me the curly bracket that I want. And now I'm going to want to say matrix. The first function is negative x minus 4, comma, from, let's see, x is less than negative 2. And I'm going to put 2 pound signs in, and then 2x, x is greater than or equal to negative 2. And I'm going to close off that matrix command and now say right none, And now I just need to line things up, so I'm going to put some space in there. Oh, and I put my comma on the wrong side there. And this is, again, it's personal preference how far you want to line these things up, to move them over, to line them up rather. All right, I'm happy with that. One other thing here, I like to, again, there's a border around this, and I showed this in the first video. There's always a border around, so I'm just going to go in here and get rid of that padding. All right, so now I've got this function written out, and now I want to graph it. And actually, the graphing isn't that bad. So let me jump over to GeoGebra. And remember my two functions? One was y equals negative x minus 4. The other one was y equals 2x. So I'm just going to graph those. So negative x minus 4, I'm just putting it in the input bar and hitting enter. And the other one I'm just hitting 2x. Now, there is a command that will allow you to simply only evaluate a function in a particular interval. And the command is called function. So the way you write this command is function. You tell it which function. So let's say f. You can see f is the first function here. So f, and I'm supposed to evaluate it from negative infinity to negative 2. So negative, and I come over here and select infinity, comma, negative 2. So this is going to evaluate the function f from negative infinity to negative 2. Now, it doesn't look like anything happened, but if I come up here and hide f, you can see that I've got this piece here. And I'll deal with getting rid of the name stuff later. And then the other function, g, I'm going to evaluate g from negative 2 to positive infinity. And then I'll hide g as well. Now you notice that in mine, I had, if I right click, I get rid of these names. So I got rid of the labels. And I had put points on the end here to show, in this one it's not evaluating at negative 2, and in this function it is evaluating it at negative 2. So I just simply put in 2 points. So negative 2 f of negative 2, negative 2 g of negative 2. Now I'll go in and edit the properties of these points. So I don't want to see the label on either point. Oop, but I do want to show that point. And now, so this point it's going to be included. So I'm going to go over here to Style, and I'm just going to make it bigger. And on point A, I want to change it to open, and I'll make it 5 as well. Alright, so if I move this around a little bit, you can see my picture is looking right. Now the last thing I did was I zoomed out a little bit, and in the graphing video I covered this. You can see how the scale is changing, and that's kind of irritating. So if I right click and go to graphics view, I'm just going to set the distance at 1. And this distance at 1. And then I'm also going to turn the grid on. So again, I'm right clicking and turning the grid on. And there we have it. Now I can come over here and select the region that I would like. And then if you're on Windows or Mac, you can just go to graphics view as picture, export graphics view as picture, and just save it to the clipboard. If you're on Linux, you need to save it as a picture and then import that picture into LibreOffice or whatever Word package you're using. So let me just save this as a picture. So I already had this piecewise example, so I'll just call this piecewise example 2. I will insert that picture. It inserts rather large, but you can just rescale it. All right, so I hope that was helpful.